After Hours.
On this episode of the History of the Corps After Hours podcast, we finish our Canadian invasion by discussing the band known as Silverstein. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at IsSurvivedByPro for news and the latest episode postings. And make sure to subscribe to the show, leave us a 5-star review, and write us a comment on YouTube or whatever podcast service you're using. Make sure to check us out on TikTok and give us a follow at IsSurvivedByProductions. And if you'd like to see us do some live streams, leave us a comment or tweet us the keyword stream. Now, without further ado, let's start the show.
The devil is in Atlanta, army surrounded.
Welcome back to the History of the Corps After Hours podcast, where each and every episode, I, Curtis, sit down with an avid listener to the Pop podcast, the History of the Corps podcast. My friend, Erik. What's going on, Erik?
Oh, not a whole lot.
Another little rainy day?
Yeah,
Sort of.
another rainy day in New York City.
Raining, and then it's
Except for not
sunshine.
New York City.
Yeah, thank God. Between you and me, I'm kind of glad about that, man.
But it's a good song, from Oliver and Company.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
Takes me back to my childhood. Kind of like this band we're going to talk about today, but hey.
Yes. I had to think, it was like, which one? Yeah.
The big one, the main
The
one.
big one, the main one. I was going to say something else, and then you took me down a different path.
Rabbit holes, here we go.
Rabbit holes, ahoy. All right, Erik. We, not in the last episode, but the episode before that, we tried something new, and we both enjoyed it, so we're going to bring it back from here on out. I decree.
The gavel has struck.
Yes, exactly. This is Erik's band Spotlight. Erik, what band did you bring to the spotlight today?
They are called Execution Day.
Okay.
So, seen these guys at the Vanguard over in Tulsa. They were with the Anchor and a couple other bands there. We might talk about them too. We'll see. Maybe get a guest spot from one of them. Who knows? We'll see.
That'd be nice.
But
Please!
so they had a really good stage presence.
I probably wouldn't be able to talk if she was in the room. I'd be like, I'm so sweaty.
Well, I could tell you from talking to the guys, not just these guys, but I talked to them. I talked to a fair amount of the actual, the Anchor guys. She was taking a nap apparently pre-show.
Cat nap.
And then I talked to the guys from the Pariah system, and all really cool. Execution Day was probably the coolest, I have to say, of the bunch. I didn't realize I was sitting there talking to, one, the lead singer and the lead guitarist. And they're just cool as cucumbers. Like, dude, hey, yeah, we don't got a sticker, but I got this thing. And it's sticky on the back. You can stick to stuff.
What?
It's one of those phone pole things.
Okay.
You put it on the back and it pulls out.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So for the price of a sticker or whatever, they gave me one of those. It was a really cool thing to do. I sat there and talked to them guys for a while, and really cool guys, and really pretty talented in my opinion too. Good stage presence. It was a pretty small crowd that night, but they were really personable. Vanguard, lends itself well to that, being a smaller venue in general and being kind of closer to the ground. You get to some of these like, the Diamond Ballroom. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty tall stage overall, and you're like 12 feet away from it. It's a lot of separation between you and that band, and it doesn't always feel as, personable. But anyway, these guys did a really good job interacting with the crowd. They weren't like, up there in the spotlight, a million miles away, that kind of thing. I know, I'm
Turn the page. Anyway.
So, let's see here. So they've got a bunch of EPs, and I mean a bunch. You've probably looked them up at this point.
Yeah. Did you say what genre they were?
Not yet.
Okay. Sorry. I'm not trying to skip ahead. I was like, wait, did he say?
Nope.
Okay, go ahead. This is his spotlight, not mine. Shut up, Curtis.
We're going all kinds of weird order here today. So So they got a bunch of these EPs going on so far. They've got one EP that's almost full-length album. We'll talk about it a little more in a minute. And then they got their first full-length album came out just about a month ago at the time of this recording.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So many of which those were released on earlier EPs. I think you and Josh talked about it a little bit at the podcast. You're like, come on, guys, release new material. But these guys are new.
Yeah.
So I still give them a little bit of a pass.
Yeah, that's okay.
I mean, this is their first full length, so I give them a little bit of pass on that one. So best I can figure, they're currently with Theoria Records.
Who?
Exactly. Best I can figure on them is they have about 6 bands, and they're the biggest one.
Wow, okay. Do you know, can you name some of the other bands?
Something about I think it was like Death Shark or Shark Attack or something like that.
What, dude?
And it looks pretty epic, like the...
that's pretty cool.
The album art that they have.
Yeah.
You look at almost all the other bands, I think I said that I've seen 6 of them on there. And I think out of them, there was 2 or 3 that are kind of face paint type bands.
What was the record company called?
Theoria.
Let
me mispronounce it for you again.
You're good. Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So anyway, interesting little label. They're picking up some new guys. I always like to hear that personally.
Zombie Shark. Ooh.
Zombie Shark. That's it.
Scent Like Wolves. Execution Day. The difference between Zombie Shark. Ooh, looks like a schizophrenic person drew that.
I thought it was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool though. Colony Collapse and D Mad Devil. What? Okay.
Yeah, there's some couple special looking ones on there. I looked them all up, kind of, Spotify, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. Not a whole lot of listens on them guys yet. I might go down that rabbit hole someday. We'll see.
Yeah. Cool.
So, they hail from the home of Once Nothing, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. At least the area of Pittsburgh, depending on if you're looking at Facebook, Bandcamp, whatever. The area of Pittsburgh, anyway. Okay. The boroughs, subs, whatever you want to call them.
Subs.
Yes, those. So they've been around officially since 2016.
Okay.
Like I said, 2023, they just released that first full-length album, though. So they are... the name itself, this is where we're getting into what they sound like. The name itself sounds like some Lorna Shore level death metal. But it's not. Okay. It's really, trust me, it's not. They call themselves alt-tinged metalcore.
What? Alt-tinged?
Alt-tinged. A-L-T, tinged metalcore.
Okay.
So alternative mixed with metalcore. As a whole, I kind of get it, though.
I think the tinge part is throwing me off. I'm like, I don't... Okay. Go ahead.
I mean, it's kind of like saying blue-collar metal, Well... What in the world is that?
Everybody's got a gimmick.
Yep, that's it. So I would say they are on the softer end of metalcore for sure. They do have elements at times of the new metal type situation going on. There's a little bit of electronics going on.
Yeah.
Some spoken word stuff that kind of turns into almost a rap feel. Got a lot of flow to it like a rap would.
Okay.
Especially in their newest album. The first big EP that I really listened to was... From the Bottom of My Heart. Mm-hmm. And that's got a little bit more of an old school, like a heavy Plain White T's feel almost.
Okay. Interesting.
Like
if Plain White T's was a metalcore band.
Right. That'd
be interesting.
That's kind of the way it feels to me anyway.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. That's an interesting way to look at it. I'll have to,
look at it with some different goggles next time around.
Okay.
And then, let's see. So... I would recommend a few songs off their new album, Flourish, Escape, Hollow for sure. That is a fantastic... I think it's their top one on Spotify at the moment.
Okay.
For a reason. It's fantastic. And then off their Rebirth EP, there's a song called Eye for an Eye. Okay. Chef's Kiss. Okay. Pretty good stuff. I enjoy that one.
Good title. So you got me there.
So, and then from Bottom of My Heart, I just love that whole EP. It's 24, 26 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, I think about 24.
So it's a pretty good whole EP. Gives you a good feel for the band. And I like the flavor. It's a good flavor.
Okay.
So as a whole, I like the sound they had best probably off of Bottom of My Heart, but they're still a relatively new band. We will, in the end, see if that's still the sound that they go with moving forward, or if they go a little bit more electronic like this current album.
Yeah, it makes me wonder then.
We'll kind of see long term how they move, but
okay. Well, I listened to that one EP, from the bottom of my heart. Would you like to hear my initial thoughts?
Let's hear your initial thoughts on it.
Okay, so I'm not gonna lie. At first, when the first song came on, was it Lifeline? I think is what it was called. Maybe I can't remember right off the top of my head what the first song was called. Probably a weird little comparison, but the first thought that came to my mind was, is this new Vanna? Because I don't know why, but the unclean vocals kind of made me like kind of drift that direction a little bit, and the way he was kind of like screaming some of the lyrics or whatever. But I don't know. For me, it's a good EP, and I really enjoyed it. And I listened to it one time through. I want to go back and listen to it again. Lifeline's the first one. It kind of took it a little bit. It took a couple of songs before it really got going for me. And like I said, the second time around, it may feel a lot better overall. But I love the last two songs, Disconnected.
Order 66.
And my favorite is Order 66, man.
I know it's just an EP, but that is a good way to end it.
That is such a good way to end it. You know, me and Josh have talked about ways to start albums and ways to end albums and the flow of, you know, the tracks throughout the album, blah, blah, blah. And we're going to talk about a little bit of that too on this episode with the band that we're going to be talking about. But another thing that just gets me is the way they do that. It's kind of not really a breakdown, but like at the end of Order 66 where it kind of slows down and they've kind of got that repetitive, like kind of like choir singing type, you know, gang vocal, whatever you want to call it. And the music just fades out to where it's just the vocals over and over. Oh, that's just such a good way.
That's the right
do
kind
it,
of
man.
fade.
That's the right kind of fade.
I know you and Josh have talked.
Yes.
At extent.
That's the right way to fade out, man.
Yeah, I agree. The regular, just fading out into nothing, nah, man, that doesn't really do it for me. But
right
when you fade out other parts and then you're left with just the raw vocals of it,
yeah. I don't know if I had said this on the podcast before too. It's a little different, but I'm a sucker for steel guitar in a song. Oh, I don't know why. It's just like an emotional instrument. It's just like, oh, it sounds so good. I'm a sucker for a guitarist playing like scales, but on like a delay pedal. And so it's just like echoing. Oh, there's something about that sound, man. It's just like, oh, it's so good, man. It's so good. And I love how they did that on the beginning of Order 66. That was pretty cool. And then my last little bit was I like the little thing they did right at the end of Disconnected, transitioning right into Order 66, where it's like Disconnected ends and then it like pops back in real quick with like disconnect, and there's kind of playing on the word of the song or whatever. But so I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, so I'm interested to hear more from this band. Go back and listen to this EP again, and then go on and listen to the rest of their, maybe some singles or whatever, and then check out that new album and see what I think.
Like I said, the new album's hanging a little more on the electronic side at the moment.
So I'm at least I've got that in mind where I'm kind of like, okay, don't expect all of this what you heard off of that EP. So
we'll see where they end up long term.
Okay,
but I don't know. I kind of like where they're at right at the moment. Like I said, as a first album, I think it's a good, strong album.
Okay, cool.
Let me give you some lyrics off of that, because
go for
their lyrics do kind of hang in the little kind of saddish area of life. Mm-hmm. They talk a lot about mental health and things like that in a very poetic way. They got a song called "Suffocate," and talking about life suffocating you,
right?
Choking the life right out of you. It's great.
It's true.
But Hollow, the song there, has just a couple lyrics here for you. As I walk to the gallows, breathing is shallow. I start to feel like I've lost this battle, trying to realize a new horizon brings tomorrow.
Nice.
And the way he brings that in there too,
nice.
There's a lot of good right there.
Cool.
And they do try to be a kind of positive band, I guess you could say.
Right.
A lot of bands kind of turn memey when you do that. Meme-ish, I guess I
Yeah.
should say.
Oh, the other thing I was going to say too. Well, go ahead. No, go ahead and finish your thought.
Oh, just the fact, like I said, you get too positive, you turn into a meme.
Okay.
I mean, Will Smith from the 90s and 80s.
Oh boy.
I rap, but I do it positive.
I always think of Family Guy did like a joke on his rapping or whatever. He's like, "You got to do your homework and brush your teeth." And it's like, oh boy, yeah, that's Will Smith back in the day.
Not far off, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't think they're quite there. I think they're in a good spot as far as we talk about the sad, we talk about the
a
happy.
little yin and yang
Yeah.
going on,
Yeah.
man. Okay. Yeah.
And not all their lyrics hang, on that spectrum. but
Right.
One of the first songs I did hear from them is that it's a 1-800 number, the previous suicide hotline, and it is a really good cover.
Okay.
I did like that cover quite a bit. I forget who did the original. You can roast me in the comment section below if you like.
Roast it. I made a comment about the unclean vocals. The clean vocals, you know who he makes me think of? It makes me think of the clean vocals from when we came as Romans. When we came as Romans. When we came as Romans back in the day. Like the first one always comes to my mind is like To Plant a Seed. Just saying like that high and kind of like dubbed vocals. So it almost kind of sounds like electronic kind of in his voice, but I mean they're really good. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy that. I enjoy back in the day we came as Romans too. So yeah. Anything else on that band?
Oh, that's it. Go check them out. They're, like I said, they're still pretty new. I mean, they were just babies in 2016, so I mean they just released that first album. Go give them a listen. They're well worth your time.
Okay. Cool.
How much could you lose in 30 minutes? I mean,
it's just 30 minutes, people. You go to the grocery store, just pop it in real quick. You'll be fine.
on your way there, on your way back, if you're waiting in the parking lot for them to load up the trunk, come
exactly.
on now.
You'll be good. You'll be good.
just hook it up.
And you know what? Maybe that Walmart employee will come out and be like, "Yo, bro, what are you listening to? That sounds dope."
That's fire. Let me know what it is.
Yeah, and be like, "Well, where did you hear this from?" And you'd be like, "Bro, heard it from this podcast right here, The History of the Chorus After Hours." And be like, "The History of the Chorus After Hours? Well, it sounds like there's something else that follows that." And be like, "Yeah, there's a pop podcast of that. It's called The History of the Chorus, and the baby podcast of that is The History of the Chorus After Hours podcast, and that's where I got the Execution Day, man." And you'd be like, "Whoa, cool!" Or we just become best friends, and we're like, "Yeah," and then they high five each other, and then they laugh, and they never see each other again. So.
Because that's what men do.
That's what men do. Man. That's what we do, women. That's what we do. What are we talking about? I don't even know what we're doing anymore.
Let's talk about Silverstein. I'm excited.
Yeah, let's talk about this little band, Eric. This little unknown band to you and I. No, just kidding. Let's talk about the band known as Silverstein. Fair warning to you people that are listening to this podcast right now. I mean, we're already 18 minutes in just talking about Execution Day. We haven't even started talking about Silverstein. And buddy, me and Erik could probably talk about that for about 3 or 4 hours. Wouldn't you agree?
It is a possibility.
So, I mean, we have no clue what we're going to do. You cut downs on some of your notes, didn't you?
I really did. I truncated quite a bit.
So we're going to...
For you people, you're welcome.
We're not really sure what's going to happen here, so you're kind of on the same boat with us. And sit back, relax, and enjoy Silverstein. Erik, as always, I'd like to ask you 2 questions to start off an episode. How were you introduced to the band Silverstein?
This one was organic.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I know.
I think it was me.
I mean, you might have been one of the driving factors way back when, but
Maybe
we're talking
maybe it was one of those where it's like you found it and you're like, "Hey, it's Silverstein." I'd be like, "Silverstein?"
Yeah, like 06 or 07, so there's no telling who actually told me you need to go listen to them right now.
Right.
But
your conscience.
My conscience
That's
was my
your
guide.
Jiminy Cricket.
So I don't remember if it was right before or right after Arrivals and Departures came out, but it was right around that time.
Okay.
I couldn't, like I said, I can't remember
right
if I was
7 then, yeah.
right about that time.
Mm-hmm.
So 06, 07-ish.
Okay.
Let's see. I do remember, this is the story I was telling you about before we got on the podcast here. I remember about that time, I just started listening to them, and this person was pulling out stuff out of their book bag, and they had a CD with no cover in it or anything like that, and it was the Discovering the Waterfront.
Oh, there you go.
And of course, it didn't have any names on or anything.
Right.
It's like, dude, cool. That's a band I'm starting to listen to. And they're like, well, what's the name of the album? And like testing me, like, come on, do you really listen to them, or are you just messing with me? I was like, yeah, it's a, and I totally blanked, and I pulled an under oath.
You said, no, wait.
And I said, it's Finding the Waterfront.
Oh, wow. Well, Christopher Columbus found America. Discovered, found, whatever.
Yeah, same word, right? I don't know.
Yeah, it's all the same.
So
great. Add that to the collection.
Yeah, I'm telling stories on myself
Finding the
today.
Waterfront. Man, I love that album. Silverstein's Finding the Waterfront.
But that being said, renaming albums, nothing new for me.
Sounds like a cover band or something would have did that.
It's our cover
Finding
album.
the Waterfront. Anyway, go ahead.
So, yeah, that was pretty much it. Just about that times when I found them. Like I said, I can't remember who actually told me you need to go look them up, but it was probably a lot of people because that's about that time, they were starting to really pick up in the scene.
Yeah, for sure. Discovering was the big moment.
That was their big breakthrough.
That broke them through, yeah, for sure.
And then about the time Arrivals was starting to come out, right about the time I got into them, they were already hitting it big on the scene.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there was a lot of anticipation for that third album. The Compass, man, that's what that... Oh, man, that's one of the sickest, CD covers I've ever seen, man. Yeah. How would you, Eric, describe Silverstein to a new listener?
For a long time, they were my definition of post-hardcore.
Okay.
If you want to think baseline post-hardcore, my brain went to Silverstein.
Okay. Yeah,
if somebody said, hey, check out this new band, I think they're kind of post-hardcore. I said, Silverstein or no?
Is it Silverstein?
So, I mean, they
was
were
the answer for everything.
They were my definition for that for a long time, just because they were probably the first band I listened to that was truly post-hardcore.
Right.
They weren't metalcore tinged. They weren't, dripping in, hardcore. They were just right there in that post-hardcore.
Right.
So for me, that's right about where I'd put them, at least for, the first few albums.
Well, and that's what I meant to kind of reword this question different than what we usually have or whatever, but yeah, because that's the thing about it. It's they've been around since 2000.
Yep.
And they're still going here in 2023, 24 coming up. There's been some genre changing, for sure. I mean, there's some different elements in their music throughout their discography. So.
Well, and over the last 20 some odd years, post-hardcore has changed.
And that's true. Yeah.
And I think they're changing with the face of it a little bit. That being said, at this point, in the last 3-ish albums, maybe even 4, depending on how you really count the harsh vocals and whatnot.
Right.
But they're kind of creeping towards, hardcore, maybe some softer metalcore even.
Okay.
In my humble opinion.
Right. Well, speaking of vocal changing, so I mean, you take even just the first 2 albums, their first 2 full lengths. Well, heck, I mean, let's throw in the first 2 EPs. I mean, you go from their first EP, it was just straight up singing, right? Second EP, they bring in a little bit of screaming. It's very, very raw, and I mean, you can tell he's new to it. And then once you get into their first full length of When Broken Is Easily Fixed, me and Josh talked about at that time period, 2003, it just, there was no technique to it. It was just kind of a deal of, all right, who can outdo the other person, who can scream the gnarliest, who can shred it more, vocally, whatever. And so you're just kind of going out there and just doing it without any practice or any, reason why or whatever. But then even at that, it's it's more polished once you get to their sophomore album. And I think that's kind of a production thing, added with, probably a better producer, obviously. And at that point too, 2005, you're probably starting to kind of get around where it's okay, if I'm going to do this long term, I gotta figure out, okay, what do I want? How do I need to do this without destroying my voice? But, even just taking those, little group at the very beginning there to what they have now, how would you describe Shane Toll's vocal style change?
So going back just full lengths, Broken is Easily Fixed, I call Baby Shane.
Baby Shane.
You could tell he's young there.
Oh, yeah.
100%. He's definitely still young, and it shows all the way. Kind of reminded me of, now that I'm thinking about Vanna a little bit, reminds me of Search Party, that EP.
Yeah.
As far as, they're all very young.
They came out at about the same time.
And they are very similar time periods, and both very quite raw, I guess you could say at the time, too. Getting into Discovery, on up through Rescue, I'd say. Those are the ones I think of when somebody says post-hardcore vocals. That's that chunk right there.
Okay.
You get into This Is How the Wind Shifts through I Am Alive. That's kind of a transition period. I'm starting to hear more of those hardcore style vocals in there. And it does feel kind of like over the two albums, kind of a gradual change.
Right.
And then you get into Dead Reflection up through The Current. Harsh vocals have turned pretty much old school hardcore.
Okay.
And then your clean vocals it's got this gravelly sound to them a lot of times now. It's not as clean and as,
That just makes me wonder if it's just kind of like too many years of doing what he's done, and it's just kind of changed his voice a lot, maybe.
And not just screaming can do that too, I guess, but singing can do that to your voice.
Oh yeah.
Can't remember the name of the singer right now, but there's a lady that started singing when she was, young little lass, and she really belted it. I guess, I don't know if she did opera or whatever, but had a really pretty high voice for, a woman of her stature and everything like that.
Right.
And through the years of doing all that singing, her voice went from a, really high lady's voice to really low end of alto, like getting down into honestly like tenor.
Right.
Because her vocal cords have changed because she used them so rigorously. And, touring, singing, screaming, over the years, it will take its toll like that.
For sure, yeah. Yeah,
So.
that's brutal. Did you have anything else on Shane vocals?
Oh, just that the cleans are kind of, at times, mixing the harsh and the non-harsh vocals.
Yeah.
Which I find interesting. I don't...
Start kind of blurring the line.
Right.
It's not...
And that kind of reminds me of, like, early Atreyu, actually. Which I think we'll talk about a little bit later as well. But Atreyu, back in the day, I can remember, I think it was before becoming the Bull, actually, EP. Back in, when we were young lads, too. The mixture between singing and screaming just kind of flowed, and he would go from this voice that starts screaming, and there was just a flow straight into it, and there was not a harsh start and stop. Right. It was kind of a roller coaster up and down. Well, that's almost where we're getting with Shane.
Right. Especially when back in early Silverstein, it was a lot of like call and answer.
Yeah.
With his clean and unclean. It was like, here's a clean and here's an unclean. Here's a clean and here's an unclean. He kind of had a pattern in a lot of songs that he would just kind of do it like that. First one always comes to mind is Your Sword versus My Dagger. Yeah, exactly, man. Oh, what a way to start what a riff to start an album, man. Yeah, I do personally. I do enjoy when vocalists can blur the line though, like that.
That's something I kind of do like.
I do enjoy
out of the new vocals.
For me, it's like it almost kind of like invokes like passion.
Right.
It's very emotional. It's I don't know. It's hard to describe, but it feels real to me, And I can do that too, so it's nice to be able to do something that
you feel really seen.
I'm like, yes, I can do that.
That's me. I see it.
Yeah. Well, we talked about Shane's vocals. Let's talk about how underappreciated do you think is Paul Kohler's unique drumming style?
Well, I'll tell you what, Paul is a drummer.
This is true, and they're in the back of the room.
He is usually in the back of the stage every time I've seen him.
You can hear him, but a lot of times you can't see him.
So anyway, jokes aside, he is a great drummer. I mean, he is a good enough drummer that I recognize him. I'm not like the biggest into drums. I don't know the techniques. I don't know the stuff. But he's a good enough drummer and part of a good enough band that I fought a very large fellow for one of his drumsticks at the last show I saw him.
I forgot about that. Give me that stick. Yeah, man, he used to be like my favorite drummer. I mean, he's still one of my top 5. Just like thinking on, stuff like Discovering the Waterfront and Broken is Easily Fixed. Some of the stuff that he did back in their early days, he felt like he was kind of the driving force at times with his style.
And that's one thing I did put in my notes is that his drums carry the beat, but what they don't do is they don't overshadow everything else.
Right, yeah.
He seems, and everybody else on Silverstein as a whole, they're team players.
Oh, yeah.
They're not like one.
Move out of the way. I got to do my solo here.
One Lars Ulrich, I actually put in my notes by name. The ego of the drummer world, I think.
Shots fired.
Yeah, we're shooting all over the place today. So, Lars, there is that ego. He can't let anything go by without his thumbprint on it, it feels like. And he has got to be all up in the middle of it. And there's others that their drums really overshadow guitars and vocals at times.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the mix too and everything else. But, being part of the band, not saying, hey, I need that drum to be up about 16 more notches. Can I hear the guitar? No, but I don't care.
Right. Think about it as a whole, not just your part.
Right. But that being said, without a good drummer on there, they wouldn't have made it where they are today for sure.
Is that a metal trash can over there? Give me that. I want to bang on it. You know who you are, man. God, what a terrible sound. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I always enjoyed. Of course, I got my picture with him back in the day. Signed poster from him too. I forgot about that. So yeah, he used to be one of my favorites, man. He was the top dog. Now he's just in the top 5. He's the top 5 drummers.
Well, the fact that we've individually been listening to him for 15 plus years each.
Yeah.
And he's still in your top 5.
Yeah.
That says something about the man's talent.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna have to think about that, man. I can already tell you, like, he's in there. Aaron Gillespie's in there.
Man.
Daniel Davison is in there. I feel like there was another one.
Any of the guys like Aaron Gillespie can drum and sing at the same time.
Oh my goodness,
that's stupid talented.
And me and Josh talked about it on a previous episode. It's like, it's one thing to just like, play the drums like Phil Collins or whatever, and not hate on Phil Collins. I like Phil Collins, but it's one thing to just kind of do like a simple beat or whatever. But the intricate, it'd be like putting Paul's drumming style with Aaron's like vocals. It's like, how do you keep time on doing the vocals while keeping time on the oh my goodness, man.
It's a small part, but the anchor, they have a song. I forget the name of it at the moment, but yep, that's going to plague me. Anyway, but
all right.
Their drummer actually does a kind of a partial vocals, kind of as a kind of call and response, like you were saying.
Oh, okay.
Here's her singing, then he kind of responds to what she's singing and everything like that.
Does he have his own microphone, or does she just like give him?
Yeah, he's got his own microphone hanging there, And it's a really cool thing, and he's wailing away as he's doing it. It may not be as complicated as something Aaron's doing, but
right.
I give props to still again a pretty new band.
Period. Yeah, trying to do that.
If you can drum and vocalize at the same time without making just noises. I don't think I could speak English and play any instrument at the same time, to be honest. I don't know that I could do that.
I would probably just end up singing like the beats that I'm trying to do.
A-A-A-A-C-C-C-C.
There you go, man. All right, Eric, I got a first trivia question here for you. Ready?
Oh, snap.
Okay, here's the question for you.
Watch me mess this up.
Besides vocals, what other instrument did Shane Toll play in the beginning years of the band?
Well, I've watched him play acoustic guitar before, but I don't think that's the early years.
No.
I've watched him play that twice, I believe, come to think of it.
Josh said he actually seen him play this instrument in like a live performance before. I guess like an older video. Yeah.
Was it keys?
No, it was not.
Oh.
It was bass.
Bass. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, which I never knew that
I
until
couldn't remember that.
Yeah,
I know Shane's a pretty talented guy.
Right, yeah.
Most of these guys really are. But I've definitely seen him play acoustic on stage for sure,
yeah. Well, I feel like anytime that they did any acoustic songs, he was doing like a recording. I think he was the one that was recording it.
Again, getting back to strumming and singing at the same time, I don't think I could even do that.
Oh shoot, what was I gonna say? Oh, I didn't realize that he played bass in the early days, and I think it was just on their. It was just their first EP, because their second EP they had gotten Billy
Good
to
old
come
Billy.
in as to be their bass player. But I didn't know that until I was doing the notes for the original episode with Josh.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that since listening.
Yeah, so
Because,
I thought that was kinda,
as far as I've been listening, Billy's been there.
right.
I remember him doing backing vocals, backup screams, things. And live, I guess he still does it quite a
Yeah,
bit.
I
I've
think he
seen
does, yeah.
every time I've seen him, he still helps, back up screams and whatnot.
Right.
So
Yeah.
interesting. I forgot about that.
The unsung hero of Silverstein. Yeah, it's always interesting though when like you have a band like this and you think you know everything about them, and it's like, well, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool, man. So I was pleasantly surprised to find that little fact.
Little factoid.
Okay, so this is kind of an interesting one. So Shane Told called their album Arrivals and Departures. He's already shaking his head. Arrivals and Departures, their worst album, in an interview in 2018. So to give you a little context, Eric, that's everything from we'll just talk about full lengths here. Everything from When Broken Is Easily Fixed through Dead Reflection. So you still don't get the last two albums in that comment, but he's saying that everything in that period comes into play, and he says Arrivals and Departures is their worst album. I had a feeling going into this that you were going to disagree, because I thought you enjoyed Arrivals and Departures a lot, right?
I did. Quite a
Top
bit.
three?
I think so, actually.
Okay. So,
Even still.
and I was thinking so that it was, because I remember back when it came out, I was kind of like, yeah, and you were kind of like, yeah, this is really good. So I was thinking that you were definitely like, what? So obviously you shaking your head and, you saying that it's one of your top three favorite albums, you disagree, right?
I very much.
Is there an album in that time period, though, that you think, okay, no, it should have been this?
So, this, like you said, this was my favorite album for a very long time.
Right.
Had a couple of my favorite songs on it for a very
My
long
Disaster?
time. I mean, it's one of them, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not top three, maybe.
I remember you being really high on that one.
There's two more we'll talk about later. That
Okay,
I think
that's fine, yeah.
They ended up ellipsing it a little bit just because of lyric content.
Okay.
Because I love... Anyway, we'll talk about those in a minute.
That's fine. No, you're good.
But I really think if we're including Dead Reflection, objectively speaking, I think it's a weaker album.
Yeah.
It is still kind of it's the end phases of the transition period that his vocals and some of the sound overall is going through. So it is a little bit of a changeover. They're doing some different stuff. And I just objectively, I think it's weaker. But I know it's his job to sell the new thing.
This is true.
He's got to sell merch. He's got to sell tickets to his show. And if he doesn't say Dead Reflection is the best thing that he's ever put out in his life, how is he going to sell tickets to that?
Right.
Dead Reflection is such a terrible album, guys. I don't want you to come to my show. I have to play 4 songs from the album by contract, and you don't want to hear these. They are so bad. His job is to do the opposite of that.
By the way, we're going on tour. Buy some tickets.
So I understand that.
He puts out like a little message before he plays the songs, like, all right, guys, this is the part of the set that we just hate doing because it's off our worst album to date. So here we go. All right, 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
And it's the new thing. Oh, wow. That was a
Yeah.
hard stance he took there.
Yeah, so I get that too, but I think even like right after Arrivals and Departures, like he kind of looked back on it and was like, we're not happy with like the recording in terms of like it. How'd they say? I think they were like, it sounds just like like a regular rock album. I'm trying to think how he said it.
What's wrong with that?
Well, he wasn't like really pleased with. I shouldn't have said that. I mean, he wasn't really pleased with it, the recording process. I mean, they went with a one-off producer, and I think one of the things that they really did not enjoy about the recording of that album was the sound of the drums. And I don't know if you've listened to. I think they remixed and remastered Arrival and Departures like this last year.
Right, and I won't listen to it.
Okay.
Well, no, I actually did listen to it all the way through in preparation for this, and I'm like, what's going on?
Okay.
This is not my album I like.
Yeah. Did they re-record it or just?
They just remixed it a little bit. I don't know if they've got the raw file still, and they were able to pull the pieces and actually mix it differently.
Yeah.
But even starting out right off the bat, it's a little different.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not, you know me, I'm not a fan. I like a few things here and there off of their last 3 albums, but as a whole, I don't like their last 3 or their newest 3 albums. However you want to say that. I have to be careful how I say it because sometimes to me it makes it sound like the band's not a band anymore. So I'm like, well, they're
still
three.
here.
Let's say they're 3 previous releases. That's what I'm trying to say. I like a few songs off of each one of them, but like as a whole, I'm just not really into it. I don't gravitate towards it. I don't agree with what he's saying either. I don't think Arrivals and Departures is their worst album. Man. If I had to pick one out of that group, though, like throwing Dead Reflection out because, again, it's your newest one, so he has to say that.
Like I said, objectively, I was really trying to take my bias out of it, which is really difficult to do, especially when you're talking about one of my absolute favorites. But generally speaking, I do think Dead Reflection.
Yeah.
I think it's just a little bit weaker of an album overall.
Yeah. I was never really a big fan of Rescue. And I know you really like that one too. We're going to talk a little bit about that, and I think what we're going to talk about here after a while, it kind of lends into that. But yeah, anyway, we'll leave that for that question. But did you have anything else on that discussion?
No, we can leave Dead Reflection alone.
Okay. We'll be back for it.
I'll pick on it more.
Okay, so let's talk about concepts. Concept albums.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so I have this quote here from our original episode. And it came from Shane Toll when he was talking about the concept of Shipwreck in the Sand. So he says, quote, "The concept of the record, The Shipwreck in the Sand, is complicated. In my opinion, that's a bad start."
Yep.
Okay, then he goes on, and there's a lot of stuff going on. And I like that about it. That it is not obvious, and that a lot of people can take something out of it that's their own. Welcome to the History of the Chorus podcast. Okay, because I feel like I'm on that podcast now where I cannot read a review here. Anyway, Shane continues on to say, "The reason I wanted to do a concept record was because of the way the world is right now. With the economy being messed up, people losing their jobs, and families losing their life savings, and not knowing what they're going to do in the future. 10 years ago, everything was going so well, people were not as concerned, and now it's a really scary time. There's a lot of underlying political issues within the record, and about what governments all over the world are spending money on, what their focus is on. There's also a lot of social issues I wanted to talk about as well. People that watch reality TV and think Cribs is the way their house needs to look, or they need to look like people from a Cosmopolitan magazine. There's just so many problems that face society right now, and I really wanted to tackle them all. Each song just dives into a different issue. You know, the issue of healthcare right now in America and how it's so divided when it should be so obvious." So just taking that one, because I think he had comments on like several different albums about their concept, stories, and ideas and blah, blah, blah. But just taking this one off of Shipwreck in the Sand, what do you think of Shane's idea of concept albums?
So I don't know why it needs to be so convoluted.
Yeah.
I remember when it came out, or when it was announced even, before it came out. somebody told me this was going to be a concept album. I don't know if I just read the first sentence of that and said, hey, we're going to bring out a concept album. I said, okay, cool. And kept scrolling on Facebook or MySpace or whatever it was at the time.
Right.
And I just always thought when after it came out, it was pretty straightforward. Maybe I'm a simpleton, I don't know. But so until reading some of the quotes like this one here from the band, I just thought it was about a doomed relationship and how the main character basically was dealing with it.
See, that's what I was in the same boat. And then when we did this original episode and I was digging deeper, it's like, you've just made it bad because now I don't know what the heck it is. So me personally, it's like, I feel like he shouldn't have said anything. If you're going out there and you're saying,
what's that part about where he says everybody can take something different?
That's what I was about to say. It's like the deal of
leave it there.
It's not that is not obvious, and that a lot of people can take something out of it that's their own. That's the point of music. So why do you have to go out there sometimes and be like, well, it's because now, like I said, now you're just confusing me on what it is, and I'm not even sure that you know what it is. Not you, but Shane. You know. So, yeah, anyway, continue your thought there.
So, like you were saying about the healthcare thing, Born Dead seems to be about that.
Right.
And honestly...
Well, it even starts with like a breathing machine, doesn't it, or something like that?
I think
like
so.
a heart monitor or something.
There's some kind of medical background noise or something, yeah. I think it's a hallway thing.
Maybe
anyway,
so.
But I never seen it as a commentary on the American healthcare system. It always sounded like a conversation between like a therapist and him and the main character to me.
Couples counseling.
Well, not even couples counseling, but like him going through this depression, going through this alcoholism and all the other things that are talked about in this album. I mean, this sounds like he's trying to get some help.
Hey guys, we just came out with a brand new record. It's about it's a concept album. It's about couples counsel. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, before this album ended, they probably needed it, but let's just burn down the house, and forget about it. But anyway, it always sounded like that conversation to me that he's having with a therapist or somebody, or a confidant, a friend, something like that.
Right.
I always thought more like a therapist or a medical person, just because of the medical sounds and the things going on.
Okay.
And when he says something like coverage denied or something like that,
What?
I was like, huh.
It lapsed.
I was like, okay, well, that happens in a, office for, people talking to your therapist or whatever too, I guess, whatever. But yeah, I never thought about it as a commentary on our system. It's funny to me, because this is the one where, is it Liam?
Yeah, Liam
on this one?
Yeah, From Cancer Bats is
also Canadian.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Two Canadians talking about the American healthcare system.
Let's make it 3. Scott Wade's also on there. Well, Scott Wade does Born Dead.
Yeah, he's on Born Dead. That's Born Dead.
Yeah, Liam's on.
I forget
the second song, whatever the second song is. But I mean, let's just go ahead and
anyway.
group it. 3 Canadians, and hey, you want to make it 4? Lights is a Canadian, so let's make it 4 Canadians.
On an album commenting about America's issues.
I did okay. So
I don't know, I always thought that was interesting.
I didn't want to. I had the question down, but I kind of wrestled with whether I wanted to even ask it because I didn't want to get political about it. But and I think I asked Josh this too. I'm like, I just can't understand like the concept of like why these bands outside of America are like so concerned with like our problems. No offense, but it's like you're in Canada and you got a lot of problems of your own in Canada. Why don't you focus on that one? So.
Because that doesn't sell records in America?
Yeah, apparently not. So, anyway.
But anyway, it is interesting how, without the comments of Shane or anybody else from the band, me and you see something completely different than what he was originally writing. And as somebody who's written a little bit of music, I don't see a problem in that. If I wrote it for one reason, but it helps you in another way, or it resounds in your brain a different way, and it makes you go, this is wonderful. Dude, go for it.
Yep.
I don't see the problem. I was in pain when I wrote it, and you were, dancing on top of the table or whatever. Cool. Whatever, man. I don't see a problem with that. But getting back into, golly, who said that? One of the early bands you made a quote from. Was it?
What's that?
I think it's Norma Jean. There was a quote from...
where he said, yeah, that's what I always think of. He said, I don't remember what song it was. Well, I may not have been like a specific one, but Corey was saying it's weird to hear these or see these fans come up to him and be like, bro, I love this song, that song, and it got me through this time or whatever. And he's like, well, that's really weird because like this is like totally opposite of, or maybe it may just been the deal of like, I just love this song, man. It's like, well, I hate it because of like what it was about. Not like I hate the song, but just like you don't understand like what was going on and why I wrote it, and it's like it's just kind of a weird concept, but that's how it is. It's like
I said,
you put it out there and people can relate it to the things going on in their life, whether it's good or bad, whatever,
Yeah, like I said, for me, I haven't written a whole bunch of music, but just a little bit that I have, and somebody reads through and goes, oh, well, that's great. I think that's about this, and that resounds in my life this way, and I'm going, sure.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I was thinking of you.
I'm glad you thought of that. Yeah.
Oh, man.
But
we are so self-centered.
And that may be it right there. We fix the world's problems. We just stop being that way.
I know. So I highlighted one part of that quote that he said, each song just dives into a different issue. And you heard me and Josh say this several times when we talked about Silverstein. It's like, okay, so you sit there and you say, well, each song just dives into a different issue. That's just a regular album then. At that point.
Normal rock album?
Yeah, I don't...
Okay, cool.
So it's kind of like...
The concept is rock album. We're going to go with that.
We're going to do a rock album. Whoa! Nobody's ever done that before.
We're breaking new ground here.
Yeah, I think I don't know. He probably, well, I don't know about anybody else. He probably would have been getting the heat from us three if he would have just leave it be. You don't have to, give the whole details on it and everything like that. I know a lot of times people are like, well, I would really like to know what the author was thinking on this song or this album, or what was their idea for it. Yeah, this one I'm kind of like, yeah, put it back in the box. Who opened up Pandora's box? Yeah. Speaking of Shipwreck in the Sand, Josh felt he heard some Atreyu sounds on that album, specifically their Death Grip. Was it Death Grip on Yesterday? I think is what it's called. Yeah.
I think so.
That was a weird face.
That was a hard thinking face.
Anyway, he said specifically from Atreyu's Death Grip on Yesterday album. Mainly he was speaking on the vocals. Let's see. On Shipwreck. And I thought it was kind of interesting too of, at that time they're both still label mates at Victory Records. So going back and listening to that album with that comment in mind, did you hear that as well? Or is it just Josh going crazy? I
could see the similarities in the harsh vocals.
Okay.
Although I never really thought about it because the underlying music changes everything.
Right.
And Atreyu has a much heavier musical section as a whole, versus Silverstein.
Right.
So just, like I said, Paul carries himself differently than whatever his name is from Atreyu.
Oh, good time.
Ain't it? Well,
he's not in my top 5.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah.
So, like I said, he just carries himself differently.
Yeah.
Those beats help carry the music, whether they drive it faster, slower, harder. They're the backbone of the band, more or less. And the two guys are different people, and they go different ways. So that's why I never really put it together. Wow, those vocals sound a lot alike, but I actually agree they do.
Yeah, I was going to say, after he said that, I went back and I could hear it too. I almost kind of feel like...
A little unfortunate, but I agree.
I'm a big Atreyu fan, are you?
Actually, I really am. But they are their own thing.
They're coming for us.
Oh, boy. But they're their own thing. Silverstein's their own thing. I like them to be in their separate boxes.
Yeah.
I don't need them overflowing into each other.
I kind of, after he had said that, I kind of was like, the tones on like guitar musically almost made me think of it too. It's kind of a dark tone a little bit. I'm with you on though. It's like Atreyu goes heavier, with it. But
this is really where I can remember Silverstein starting to tune lower too.
Yeah, that's true.
This album was really that turning point for them. I know they did some drop D stuff beforehand, but they didn't really dip much past that as a whole.
Right.
Until they really got into Shipwreck and beyond.
Right.
And now they're going towards drop Z flat, I believe.
Z flats. Oh my. We're going to invent a new tuning. Okay, so let's talk about the album Rescue real quick. So I believe it was Josh who said this. He described Rescue as a cross between Discovering the Waterfront and Shipwreck in the Sand. Now, is this top 3?
You know, top 3 is a really hard fight.
Okay. I know you enjoyed this album when it came out.
This was my anthem for a long time.
Okay, I was thinking
I
it
like
was.
this album.
So what are your thoughts? Do you kind of see that similarity too, where they kind of combine those two albums? Do you see it in a different light?
I don't know about a cross between them, but I do feel
Baby.
like, yeah, it's not. I don't think it's Baby, but most of these albums, at least to me, they feel like a gradual growth. From when the band was young, you know, Baby Shane back then, and then even
Baby Shane?
up till now, even. You know, even if you don't particularly like where the band's been heading for the last 3 albums, like me and Curse here, but
Look, we understand you can't stay the same thing forever, but it's
even then, that is growth.
yeah,
Maybe not growth that we like to see, but they're growing.
yeah.
It's like when you hit middle age and you start growing around the waist. That's growth.
Woo, spare tire.
Yep. So, I don't know. Let's see here. Maybe not where I want them to be, but life goes on, you know, as far as the growth pattern goes.
In the
But,
end,
I mean,
where they're at now.
where they're going now, yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So, but going on Josh's point, they do still take elements from what they've done beforehand and common themes and things like that they bring back and again and again. One of those was weapons of different sorts.
True.
We got daggers, swords, we got
Fire.
guns, fire, dropping bombs, just a few off the top of my head,
Right.
you know. Like I said, there's those common themes. And I think most of those, lyrically speaking, aren't talking about the weapon itself. They're talking about violence
Yeah.
of some sort. But generally speaking, though, they do bring in themes from old stuff. They bring in little sounds, little tidbits for us, you know, old school fans. Makes me happy.
Yeah. Nostalgia.
I do like those nostalgia. But anyway, it makes it feel all connected too.
It's a little off.
So
Yeah, a little off the rails here because I don't have it in my notes. But just on Rescues, like what does it for you?
probably the timing.
Okay.
When it came out,
Okay, that's fine.
I think when it came out,
Was that 09?
was it?
No,
it was 11.
no.
wasn't
It'd
it?
have to be it'd have to be after that.
I'm pretty sure it
Because
was
09
11.
was Shipwreck,
Yeah.
so it'd have to be 11. Yep, you're right.
And so that was kind of my later high school like theme.
Okay.
You know, we're blasting something on the way into high school parking lot because we're all obnoxious teenagers. That was my album.
Okay.
That was in the CD player an awful lot.
Okay.
And I think that's probably the bigger part of why that one hit me just right. It was just the perfect timing
Okay.
as far as my life, things like that. I don't know.
When it came
That being
out,
said, I can remember when I think it's Medication's the very first song there. Dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. I was like, oh, they've done it, boys. I love
we've
it.
done it.
The Silverstein always starts an album strong. Their first 2 to 3 in every album, typically, at least up to a certain point. Anyway, they do it for me.
What's your favorite intro track? I'm putting them on the spot times 2.
Is it what did we talk about earlier?
Sword.
Sword versus dagger. Your
pretty
sword
good
versus
one,
my
man. It's a
dagger.
pretty good
That's
one.
probably
Verona lives inside of you.
that is a fantastic song.
Um,
Oh man.
Yeah, I just remember when it came out. So, me personally, it's like, yeah, I was big on Broken is Easily Fixed. Discovering the Waterfront was my jam. Arrivals and Departures came out, and for me, it just kind of took a step back. It's my personal opinion. And then Shipwreck, I got hyped for that one, and I loved that album when it came out, man. You and I were so big on that one. And I thought, okay, we're back on the train tracks here, you know.
You mean Arrival and Departure?
Yeah,
train
exactly
tracks?
what I was supposed to say. Didn't it like the train tracks are broken on the front cover
Yeah, they
too?
kind of look spread apart
Yeah,
or
so
whatever.
I mean, you know.
So we were off the rails. I see.
So yeah, so they came out with Shipwreck and Sand. I was back on board. I was like, all right, here we go. We're good. we took a little dip, but we got focused again. And then Rescue came out, and I was just kind of like I held it like too high, you know. I was thinking it was going to be this.
You're expecting the next step up.
Yeah, I was expecting a step up, and it ended up being like just like a half step, I guess.
There was a lateral move.
There was some, yeah, I could see it being a lateral move. There was some songs I really enjoyed on it when it came out. When it first came out, The Artist was definitely my jam off of there.
Yeah.
With the guy
I remember,
from
I think it was,
Counterparts.
I got the special version. It had the demo version at the end.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know what was a little bit different about it. It was a little rawer or something.
Okay.
I jammed that so loud.
I'm going to have to check that one out. But going back when we did the original episode and listening to that album, you know, it'd been, well, okay, let's see. That came out in 11. Let's say I didn't really touch it at all and not even count, you know, just listening to a few songs here and there. Yeah, you're talking about 12 years in between, like, really listening to it all the way through. I was like, okay, yeah, I could see this being a good album. And I know I said earlier that in that time period, I was like, to me, this is probably, throwing out Dead Reflection, I was like, this is probably, you know, their weakest to me. But I think at that point, it's kind of like, okay, somebody's got to be the weakest. You know,
Right.
It's not my favorite, and it's still not my favorite. But going back and listening to it now at an older age, I'm kind of like, okay, I can appreciate this album more. And the hits for me back in the day still hit today. So, yeah. And I think when it came out, I think this next part where we're going to talk about kind of contributed to what I didn't like about Rescue. So the band, looking back on the album, felt that there was a disconnect, which they attributed to having 2 separate recording sessions within a year. So I don't think it'd be like, I don't think it's uncommon to say, well, we had 2 different recording sessions. I mean, I don't think it's a common practice to be like, hey, we're going to record here, and then like months later you come back. I don't know. I don't understand why you don't just do it all in one time.
My only guess is something happened. Somebody got sick. You know, somebody
Maybe.
couldn't make it for whatever reason, and then they had to reschedule. And whatever studio they're using said, "We have a spot open, and let me see. 3 months. Can you make it back in 3 months?"
Yeah. And maybe in a studio, a booking problem, maybe. I don't know.
That's the only thing I can think of is something like that happened, and then they just had to roll with what they had because a lot of these companies, they book them up pretty tight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's you're done one day, and maybe that night somebody else is starting their record, you know? I thinking about that comment and, you know, thinking about it back in the day of like why I didn't like it, it's kind of like, yeah, I can kind of see that. I just kind of feel like there's not really a defined, for me personally, I don't know about you, but it just didn't really feel like there was a defined flow on that album. It felt like a lot of time, at times there was a lot of just like individual songs just kind of thrown in there. And you know me, I like a good album that can just flow from one song to another. So I wondered what you thought about.
I guess I could see that, but I mean, it just kind of feels like an old, you know, like we talk about, it's a rock album.
Right.
You know, they just put songs together that they liked, and here's the album. But I don't know if I can pick a spot where it sounds like, you know, it just feels completely disconnected, or like, you know, here's half A and here's half B that just,
Right.
these two do not really belong together, but we're here anyway, and here you go.
Let's make the best of it.
And it never really sounds like that to me, but I do get the feeling what they're saying in the quote, because if I start to write something, even like the notes for this podcast, if I write in like a week in advance, I come back to it, and like these were hard to write because I've been a fan for so long. I get to listening to a different album, I'm like, dude, yeah, that's such a great album. Let's put that as the top today. Oh, wait, I didn't do that for that. Oh, I got to change everything. And
Right, yeah.
because, like I said, for the top 3, the title fight, you know, for the top 3,
Right.
for me, that's a hard fight. Because man, it's one of those things that it's really, your mind can change over time.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And if you're going from one spot to another, if you write something, I remember writing stuff for class, and you know, way back in high school,
You know, those
And-
days where we took notes, pencil and paper.
You took notes. Is that what I did wrong?
No, I was not good at taking notes.
Oh, good.
I drew more on my notes than anything.
I didn't.
I was
draw.
that
I
guy
just
that
scribbled.
always like in the corner margin or whatever. It was just like a bunch of like nautical stars and crazy drawings or whatever.
I just colored mine black with pen.
That too.
And then I smeared it all over my hands and desk. And yeah.
happened.
Yeah. But anyway, I can remember though writing like a essay or something like that, and then coming back to it. And one of those things where you write it, you turn it in,
Right.
you have to revise it, turn it back in. And I'm reading it through the second time, going, "What idiot wrote this? This is terrible." Oh, it's my name. Oh,
Story of my life, buddy.
and I get that feeling for sure. Like I understand. One minute you write it, the next minute you look back on it, and you go, "Ugh."
Well, I don't know about you, but like when I do, even just for like this, when I'm trying to get my discussion topics together for us to do an episode, I always do shorthand notes. And it's like I come back like, a day or two later and I'm looking at them like, what the heck was I trying to say here? What's the question? What do you mean? What is this? So I don't know if you go through that a lot. I used to go through that a lot too when I was the warehouse manager, and I would make like a list of like items that I need between like my crappy handwriting and shorthand too. I would come back like the next day because I would always make my list the night before, come back early the next day, and then look at it and go, what are you trying to say here, Curtis? What is this? I don't know. I forget that. We're not restocking that. I don't know what it is. Then, like, later in the day, I'd be like, oh, that's what that was. Then I look at the note, and I'm like, how was I supposed to get that from that, But anyway. Okay, side note here real quick before we get into our final trivia question. Have you ever heard the band called Propagandhi? As he takes a sip.
I don't believe I have.
I've heard of the band before. I've never listened to them. It's one of those
I
bands,
think y'all mentioned them, Brian.
Yeah.
But other than that,
we've
I've
talked
never
about them a
actually
couple of times. At least
dug
mentioned
into them.
Yeah, I need to go listen to them. How good of a band name is Propagandhi, though? Man?
That is a pretty cool name.
That's a sick name.
It's got
man.
a lot of strange implications.
That's 5 stars to me.
I
man.
like it. So it made me think. I think it was Tim Allen, the Santa Claus.
Uh-huh.
He's a toy manufacturer or whatever.
Mhm.
And there's a toy that they make, or that they're trying to produce or whatever. I don't know. But it's Gandhi goes nuclear or something like that.
Oh my
And
gosh!
here's Gandhi driving a tank and says, "Gandhi has had enough."
That's hilarious.
And that's what I was thinking of this is Gandhi has had enough. He
That's-
has taken peace to another level.
That's awesome, man. Nuke the world. Sweet. Yeah, that's a sick name, man. I gotta go check out that band. That's one of those that's like, I've known them for years, but it just you never think about them and be like, I'm gonna go put them on today, when you're like, oh, I want to try some new music. So, all right, here you go, Eric. Final trivia question.
All right, screwed up the first one.
This should be interesting. Okay, Eric. Silverstein, the band, is from...
Is that who we're talking about?
That's who we're talking about. Not Shel Silverstein, the poet, but the band poet. Or the band poet? The band Silverstein. Silverstein is from Burlington, Ontario.
Is that in Canada?
Oh, boy. Yeah, Burlington, Ontario, Canada. Where was the original Burlington Coat Factory started? And yes, we talked about this on the podcast.
Oh, man, that's been a minute ago.
I think it just had to do with the name, but man, we went down a rabbit hole with this one. So I'll be shocked if you can get this one.
It was Burlington, Alabama.
No.
Okay.
I mean, you're close in like the States. It's Burlington Township, New Jersey.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, Alabama, New Jersey, they're the same
Yeah.
thing, right?
I think the rabbit hole went, hey, they're from Burlington, Ontario. So I wonder if that's where the first Burlington Coat Factory came from. I don't know. Let me look it up. And we're kind of talking oh no, Burlington Township, New Jersey. That's where it's from. I think it's something about entertain your friends at parties with random useless knowledge. Hey, does anybody know where the first Burlington Coat Factory came from? But I do.
Curtis does.
I do, man.
Do you know where...
You know how many ladies
put you
I've-
on the spot now. Ready?
Go for it.
Do you know where Silverstein got their name?
Shel Silverstein.
Of course, but why did they pick that name?
Because his last name's Silverstein. I mean, they remember reading him from like when they were kids, right?
Yep.
Sidewalk Ends.
Well, and from the old story I used to hear too is when they were still a garage band way back in the the Baby Shane days.
Yeah.
They would actually read his lyrics to the songs that they were making.
Oh, really? I didn't know that one.
So
Okay.
just to get some flow, get something going. That's the story I heard anyway.
That's interesting.
Way back in the day I heard that. I don't know how true that is or not.
That'd be cool, though. Yeah.
Because from what I heard, a lot of their inspiration, for their first album or two was, I believe, Light in the Attic. Light on the Attic. However you...
The poem or whatever.
The Shel Silverstein book.
Yeah.
I think Light's in the Attic. Anyway.
I think it's Lights in the Attic. I think you're right.
Been too long. I gotta have to go home and pull that one off the shelf.
Man, yeah.
But anyway, a lot of their inspiration came from, stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool. A lasting impact. And now they're an electronic band.
Yeah. Wow.
What happened? No. Let's carry on, Eric. He went 0 for 2.
That's why I was trying to get you on one here on the spot.
Disappointing. Yeah, he's like, oh, get him, man. Crap. Just for that, I'm giving you 0 for 3.
Sweet.
Alrighty, so let's talk about this is how the wind shifts. Josh described this is how the wind shifts as sad boy music. What's your thoughts on that, Eric? Do you hear some sad boy music?
Well, kind of honestly depends how you look at it. A lot of their lyrics and themes are sad boy stuff, if you really think about it for a minute.
I mean, they're in the emo category.
Their roots, that's exactly what I wrote, is their roots are in the emo scene.
What do you want from me?
I don't think that should surprise anybody too much.
I don't think
but
so. I don't think so. Nope.
Nowadays, they're actually touring with bands like Dayseeker, and last time I seen them, Dayseeker was, the band leading right into Silverstein. And Dayseeker, I've heard more than one person say they are the face of, quote, modern emo.
Okay.
You listen to them a little bit, so
I've enjoyed
could you see that?
I've enjoyed them. Yeah.
Especially that newest album.
Yeah. It's been a little bit since I listened to that one. I could see that though. The only thing the only thing that gets me is like everything's very colorful.
Well, if you remember emo back in the day, the difference between your emos and your goths, your emos had a black shirt, but then they had neon green shoelaces.
Right. But I'm saying like this is like some of their album artwork, Dayseeker, is colorful in terms of just like it's light colors instead of like old school emo like My Chemical Romance, 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge is
black,
dark
with a
and
white kind of
drawing and some blood splattered on there, or the Black Parade or whatever.
Literally blackness in
exactly.
the name. Yeah.
From first to last, first album, or is it their first full length? I think it's their first full length. Dear Diary, it's a dark album cover. So I think that kind of goes with what you're saying of like the new age of emo.
Right, modern.
It's modern emo, where it's back in the day when we were listening to emo stuff, it was like, yeah, darkness is all around me. Yeah.
Shadows Beam,
Exactly, yeah. So
I think that was an EP for a band. I don't know which one.
I don't know who that was though, man.
Man, that takes me way back. I remember first listening to that after I got into them.
Yeah.
I was like, what
Classic,
is this?
Man. So yeah, go ahead. I think we're still trying to finish your thought there.
No, just that, that's where they come from. And I really feel like they may have kind of broken away from it a little bit over time, but they're kind of getting back towards it as far as themes, lyrically going back into the emo scene, really.
Okay.
And the emo scene's kind of coming back. And it's a different
Well,
look.
you said it's more of a modern
right
version of it now.
It's not the bedhead weird haircuts that stand up on the ends.
Cut my wrist and black my eyes.
Okay, Hawthorne Heights, calm down.
Oh, boy. Yeah, Hawthorne Heights. That's another. Ohio is for Lovers. That's another album cover that's dark.
Yeah, is that the one with the little heart on the front? Little bitty thing, isn't it?
No, that's the one that's like out in front of a house. It's
okay,
kind of like, it's in like
What's
a
the one
darker
I'm thinking
filter.
of?
There's a heart on it?
It has a little bitty heart, and it's mostly black.
Oh, is that the Used?
Yes,
think
it's
it's
the
the
used.
Used,
That's
yeah.
kind of emo-y too
That's,
in there.
yeah, that's one.
Well, there I go, just embarrassing myself again.
Here we go. Here I go again, once again.
Is my face red?
Cherry red.
If you know Weird Al.
You wearing
know what
blush
I'm
on? Okay, so still on this is how the wind shifts. Let's talk about those parallel track concept ideas. That's kind of an interesting thing. I do enjoy the title tracks, kind of like flowing with each other. I always think of the Chariot's One Wing, where just like you put all the title tracks together and it spells out a phrase, or whatever. This one, it's almost like if you had like a vinyl album and you put, the first song from, side A and side B together, it makes one, so on and so forth. So what do you think about that concept idea?
I really like it a lot, actually.
Because
I thought it was really cool.
Yeah. I mean, they had another, we can go down the rabbit hole if you want, but he did have quotes on what he thought about this concept idea. And it was or the concept album. Again, it was one of those where it's like, he gets done talking and I'm like, okay, so it's just another album, right? It's just a plain album? It's just another rock album? Because that's what I'm getting from it. And I don't know, did you ever get like a story from this album?
This one kind of, now that I never had a physical copy of this one, so I never really saw the side A, side B. This is after our, streaming really started kicking in, and so I started getting non-physical copies, downloadables, whatever.
Modernized.
Yeah, I know. Even I get modernized.
Ooh.
So, since I never had a physical copy, I didn't really know this until y'all started talking about it on the original podcast, actually. And once I realized that, I started listening to, say like Arrivals, and then jump down to Departures, listening to those back to back, or Stand Amid the Roar, and I drown, or is it Drowning in Silent Seas? The copy to that one.
I forget. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, I think Drowning in Silent Seas is the echo to that one. Anyway, I started listening to those back to back, and I was like, I can kind of see it, but I don't know. It almost feels like Block A and then Block B fit better together to me.
Stand amid the roar in a place of solace. On
That's
brave
it.
mountains we conquer, in silent seas we drown.
Okay.
Massachusetts, California. This is how the wind shifts. A better place to live and to lose. Hide your secrets with second chances and arrivals and departures. Do you think there's some connection with arrivals and departures?
No.
I always kind of wonder that. And I'm like, I wonder if that's kind of like a nod back to the original album.
Well, I think it is a little bit of a nod, yeah.
Okay.
But as a whole, I was listening to them. Like I said, I was bouncing 1 to 2 to A to B, A to B,
phrase, yeah.
And I just thought it was a kind of cool nod back to the original. And
I meant the album Arrivals and Departures. Right. What I was saying. Yeah. Okay.
Just it's a nod back to that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
That's all. I don't think lyrically we're talking much.
You're killing me, kid. Yeah.
But I'm not trying to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a cool idea, I thought.
But anyway, yeah, it is a very cool idea. But that being said, as the lyrics go and the flow, like I said, side A and side B separately feel more together than, say, Arrivals and then Departures.
Right.
So, I don't know. It is a convoluted type thing. I don't know that I really get the story or whatever.
Yeah. It's just one of those, again, where it's just like, you probably would have been better off not commenting on it and just be like, well, it is what it is, and, you can take it how you want,
It would be cool if they just came out and said, hey, it's a kind of sort of concept, and the concept is we got pairs.
Well,
And, that's a really neat idea is here's track A, or, part A of the first track, and here's the part B down here. It's two halves of the same track almost,
Right.
Which I really kind of didn't feel that way anyway. I can definitely see it's two sides of a coin on some cases, but as a whole, it's a really hard concept to follow.
Yeah. Wouldn't you want to kind of leave it like mysterious though, where it's like, because like I want to engage in it, I want to figure it out. I want to listen to the songs over and over and over, and to build up your Spotify fan base. No,
yeah.
and then like try to figure it out on my own.
You mean like Alexis on Fire?
Oh my
take
goodness.
that picture and increase the quality, decrease the
Exactly.
lighting, or
You gotta
vice versa. I
Got to
don't
put
know.
the work in for it, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and me and Josh talked about it. You have two sides of the coin. You're either subtle about it, as in an O sleeper, whereas like obviously there's something going on there. Now, obviously in the last, starting on that EP, they gave you too many details. But for most of their discography, it's connected, and you can tell there's some story there, but you're just not really sure. It's not really clear. It's kind of blurred. Or you can go full Alicena and immerse yourself too deep into it.
Well,
and commit about 3 or 4 albums to one single story.
And kind of getting into that, Unleash the Archers has done 2 full-length albums based around one character, and they've got so much story and so much backstory for this character now. They have actually started building it. They do Twitch streams and stuff like that, where they do like D&D sessions.
Oh, okay.
They've started building a D&D session around the lore and the backstory to this character.
Wow.
Like there's so much there that they're actually doing that.
That's funny.
I don't know if they ever ended up, producing and getting it all the way out there or not, but they were actually genuinely working on that. And I was like, that's a lot of lore. That's a lot of stuff to go into.
That's a lot of commitment, man. If Marvel can do it, so can you, man.
Why not, right?
They have gone too far, people. Alrighty. So let's talk about that intro track, Eric, real quick. Stand Amid the Roar. How great is it to start an album with gang vocals on the bridge/ending chorus of an opening song to an album? I don't know about you. That was sick.
I like gang vocals.
I like gang vocals in general, but man, there's something about like in the way that they did that on that song to start out an album. It's just like gets me hyped. You're like, oh, here we go, man. Let's go. Let's get this album rolling.
And gang vocals in general always give a lot of good energy, in my opinion. I mean, you've got to have if you're not, a step and hopping behind that kind of gang vocals, it starts sounding like a Gregorian chant.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you're going to do gang vocals in anywhere near metalcore, post-hardcore, or anything like that, you got to have a little hop and a step behind
Have
it.
some pizzazz on it, man.
So a bounce, I think that's how you describe it. Yeah, a little bounce behind it.
And they definitely had a bounce on this one, man.
This is a good one.
For sure.
And that's exactly how an album needs to start.
Yes. Exactly,
that energy
man.
pulling me in from the start.
Exactly.
And I think you had a point about the guitar tone on this one too. That is so sick.
Man.
Yeah.
That's just, but like,
trust me,
the
I don't give
riff
it anywhere near the love it needs because it is amazing.
Yeah, the riff is sick, but yeah, just his like the tone that he creates, man, it's so good. Yeah, I'm trying to think how it goes off the top of my head because I always kind of butcher it too once I get on the mic. Yeah, it's so good, that main riff on that song. But then yeah, once it just leads right into what's the next track? On Mountains We Conquer. Yeah, on Mountains We Conquer. I mean, leading right
Brave Mountains.
On Brave Mountains We Conquer. Yeah, I mean, leading right into that one is like, such a good.
And it doesn't let me down in between.
Yeah.
Sometimes with your gapless playback, you get a kind of a, oh, that was sad.
And I told Josh, I said, I feel like this album, it's a good one, but I feel like it's kind of a roller coaster where it started out really good, probably too good. And for me personally, it kind of took a dip in the middle, but then
should have been track 7.
It pulled back up, towards the end, and I enjoyed the last couple of songs, but there's a little bit of a dip for me, and I think Josh was the same way too. So I didn't know how you felt on that, but
it's a good album. I like it too.
yeah, I remember you're pretty big on that one too when it came out.
Have I mentioned I'm a Silverstein fan?
No, I haven't noticed, especially with the shirt.
Yeah, I decked out today for it and everything. I'm a fan.
And he's got an undershirt on that has a Silverstein. No, I'm just kidding.
Woo!
He's got a Silverstein underwear on too. More bands should do that. They should make band boxer briefs.
I got a band that would do it for sure in a heartbeat if they could, get the backer money behind it.
Mm-hmm.
They're called Aether Realm. I saw them with It was the first thing I seen after COVID, so it would have been Unleash the Archers.
Oh, okay.
And Aether Realm was literally selling signed copies of stuff that
Just
they found.
random stuff. Here's a smashed up Dr. Pepper can.
As weird as that, yes. There was a disc golf disc.
Oh,
Was one of them.
nice.
What was another one? I think dude had a banana for lunch, and so they signed a banana,
Signed a banana.
and they were going to sell that.
Gosh. Things going to turn black, and you're not going to be able to see the Sharpie. Oh, my goodness.
So, but that's a band that would do it for sure. Aether Realm.
Okay.
They're an interesting one.
Oh, boy. All right. Eric, we've put it off for too long, buddy. I'm sorry. We're gonna have to talk about these 3 newest albums. So you got Dead Reflection, A Beautiful Place to Drown, and Misery Made Me. You, Eric, have heard me and Josh's opinions on these 3 albums, and the direction that Silverstein seems to be going in with these 3. What are your your 3 thoughts? You only get 3. What are your thoughts on these 3 newest albums?
Actually, it looks like I do have 3 points.
Coincidence?
I'm pretty good at this, boys. Yeah. And girls, I guess.
We'll sign them on for another year.
Girls of the core.
Girls of the Core.
So I feel like, as a whole, the first thing I wrote down here was unnecessarily edgy.
Okay.
Lyrically, that is. So sometimes when he is expectorating his expletives.
Does he get a little James Hetfield going on? Ugh.
Well,
Yeah.
basically, basically just means he's spitting. But anyway,
gotcha.
As he's using his expletives in his lyrics, Shane seems to put a lot of unnecessary emphasis on things.
Okay.
Like in Aquamarine. It's a pretty good song overall. And then he's, when she's packing up her stuff and getting out, you packed your poop! And you got out of here. And he just absolutely puts all the emphasis,
Right.
On one single word. And it reminded me, talking about Will Smith again,
Oh, boy.
from
Question
iRobot, when he's talking to Shia LaBeouf. He says, "Stop cussing. You're not good at it."
Shia LaBeouf's in iRobot?
Yes.
I don't remember that because I haven't seen iRobot in a long time.
He's a little kid running around cussing.
Huh.
Stop cussing and go home,
don't
is
remember
what he
that.
tells him the whole movie.
Well, that's
But yeah, stop cussing. You're not good at it. Is the first thing he tells the character. And that's kind of the way I feel about Shane sometimes. It's like, I don't know why you need to do it. You haven't for 15 plus years.
Well,
and it feels strange now.
It almost feels
It's like the words
forced
don't. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
at
It's
this
like,
point.
I can't say the word, so I'll say it even louder.
Yeah. Pent up aggression for 15 years. I haven't been able to say it. Now I finally get the chance.
I don't know. It was very strange to me. I mean, overall, I understand you're growing, you're changing, the world changed, whatever, but if it doesn't feel right, don't force it.
Well, so I don't know how much you've listened to the 2 newest Under Oath albums, but there's a lot of cussing on the newest one, Voyeurist. A lot of F-bombs. And like whatever, but to me it's just like, okay, this feels forced. This definitely feels like years upon years of pent up like aggression of like, I can't say it because I'm labeled in a Christian band, and so now I can finally say it because I've broken free, and it's just like ba 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 ba, and it's just like, okay, it's like forced to me, man.
Right.
It doesn't
like
feel
unnecessarily
natural.
edgy.
That's
the words I continue to use on that.
You and I have talked about it before. There's times where it's like, I'm okay with it, like whatever, but
Senses
it doesn't
fail.
feel. I mean, it's like it's got to feel like natural and
Right.
like have some emotion to it.
Right. Senses Fail is my go-to example of that. They cuss all the time throughout most of their albums,
Right.
many of their songs throughout their albums. But when they do it, it's not just to be edgy and cool. They're doing it to show how much passion behind these lyrics. There's no other word that can describe my pain, my anguish, my anger, my excitement, whatever the feeling is. This is the word because there's no better word for it.
Right.
And that oomph behind that word, that's, the way they use it, in my opinion.
Right.
Silverstein, on the other hand, is like, I want to be cool and edgy.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna
and that's
force it.
That's what I'm always like. It's like there's a line between like, yeah, like you said, having it be emotional and passion, whereas I'm gonna be cool, man. You know,
Right,
It's
and
like,
that's kind of
all
where I
right.
feel like they're at the moment.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Stop cussing. You're not good at it.
You're not good at it, son. Yeah.
So, let's see. The second point.
that was just point one,
Yes.
people.
The second point is the sound changes a good amount. I mean, I don't expect a band to stand still forever in one little spot, a little caption in time, as much as I would love that. But it does start to feel like
bottle it up like a genie in a glass.
that's where I want my little genie, my little glass. But it does feel like a hard left turn at some point, especially from where they started to where they are today. It's very different. It's not a very linear line anymore.
Right.
Up to, before Dead Reflection, I feel like it was pretty linear. We're going in this direction. You can see where we're heading. You can see where we've been. And at some point, they got lost in the woods and made a left turn. And that's kind of where they're, in my opinion, that's where they've headed. It's a different track.
I might get beat up for this example, but I like Coldplay, so that was my death sentence right there. Great.
You
Terrific.
can like what you want. You're a grown man.
No, I can already hear Josh burning me. But anyway, their first album, I think it's called Parachutes, way back in the early 2000s, maybe late 90s actually. I describe it as like acoustic kind of chill out vibe. Not what they are now. So I mean, you got something like that. That's kind of an example of like how far you've come.
Like I said, a hard left turn.
As a horde. Yeah.
And as a final note on these, the lyrics seem more direct. This is actually a addendum to my original notes because I went through a lot of lyrics trying to find, my favorite lyrics amongst all these albums that I love so dearly. And I do genuinely mean that.
Right.
But I was looking over some of the lyrics in the new albums I do like too. But I was sitting there looking through them and I kind of realized they're really, these last 3 albums compared to the first however many, including all their EPs and everything else,
right.
15 of them or whatever, including the EPs, they're a lot more direct with these last 3 albums. They're not as poetic. Like I was talking about earlier a little bit with the weapons and everything being his way of saying this is violence.
Right.
Bombs bursting in the air, stuff like that happening all around you. I don't know.
I thought you were going to go with the national anthem for a second.
Your sword versus my dagger, I've hung up my guns. I won't kill again. The very next album. Well, I shot it. I killed the only thing I love.
I pulled him down and shot it. No.
So, anyway, but they're a lot more direct now than they used to be.
I would agree with that, yep.
So they were very, added poetic device here and one over there, a little onomatopoeia for flavor. And, I don't know, to me, it just feels more direct.
Right, yeah.
And, if I'm being honest, that's not what I signed up for.
I want mystery.
I do like a little mystery. I like a little bit of interpretation in music.
Right.
If I wanted to listen to something so direct, there's a lot of radio stuff out there.
True.
So, anyway, like I said, that was just an add-on to my original notes because that really hit me. I was reading through the lyrics going, oh, like this is a lot more direct. Like you're in my face with whatever it is you're trying to say versus, back, Born Dead. I took it one way, you took it another way, Shane meant it an entirely different way. Yeah, cool. I mean,
if I wanted something direct, I'd listen to Taylor Swift. Breakups. Waiting for their newest album where she breaks up with Travis Kelce. Yeah. That'd be good. Whoa. Okay.
So anyway, that's what I got on that.
I was going to ask you earlier. I didn't want to stop your point, though. You think the building's on fire? We're just doing a podcast while the building's on fire.
I don't smell smoke.
All these sirens everywhere.
Well,
I don't know if it's coming through the recording or not, but there's police and fire sirens going all around us. Okay, so real quick before we kind of wrap it up here. So they did 2 Redo albums. I kind of wanted to hear what your thoughts were on the re-recordings, but I wanted to specifically talk about the My Disaster 2.0. What the heck is going on there?
So the reason I like Redo is because of Redo 2, because it's fun to say.
Redo 2.
And beyond that, they're
Redo
meh.
2.
As a whole, they feel they didn't do any of these songs a disservice by re-recording them, but I do prefer the originals exclusively.
I think there was a couple. I'm okay with these 2 albums. I think there was a couple where I'm like, yeah, those old ones, I'm like, yeah, leave it be. One that always comes to my mind, I think it's California. They did an acoustic version on Redo, and I thought that was kind of cool.
I do like acoustic versions.
Yeah.
As a whole, when they do those, you know, that goes on a different kind of playlist.
Right, yeah.
So I enjoy those, but
the My Disaster one, though, it's like they wanted to re-record that, but then at the same time, it's like they wanted to mix in like a different style. It sounds like it's 2 different songs in that one song.
so it's almost like they recorded what they would do at a concert nowadays.
Yeah.
Or just, you know, cleanly without the crowd or anything like that. But just kind of in a more modern setting.
Ugh. I didn't like it at all.
So, I mean, I saw them earlier this year, and it wouldn't have shocked me to hear this in their lineup. Something like this.
Either, yeah.
That being said, they did, when they did play older things, they stuck true to it for the most part.
Good.
So, I mean, there's going to be a little bit of difference over the years, you know.
Well, I know,
We've
there's
had
things
2
that,
guitar
like,
changes. We've had
right. There's
big
things,
life changes for every one of those guys
Right.
through the years. I mean, talking 23 years on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing good.
There's things that I don't mind when you're at a concert and a band that's been around as long as Silverstein has, and they play like November, you know, from When Broken Is Easily Fixed. I'm okay with you how do I say this? Like adding like small little things. Like I always think of like the drum. Like sometimes they may, you know, add a little extra part to it, or you know, kind of hit the cymbals a different way, or the snare a different way to one part. You know, I like that. But yeah, when you start kind of like changing up the whole thing, and just kind of like redoing it, it's like, nah, you just take that out of your set list.
Well, I mean, even this is from Dead Reflection, but the Afterglow, the song, there's a line in there that says heartbreak in a St. Louis parking lot. And when I saw him live, he pointed out to the parking lot. We were in the Diamond Ballroom in Oklahoma City. And he pointed out the parking lot and said something, he made it flow really well, but the Diamond Room parking lot.
That's
And
cool, yeah.
kind of like I said, I don't know exactly how he did it, but he made it flow in there.
Stuff like that, yeah.
I like that a lot,
Yeah,
actually.
that's pretty cool.
That got me really hype. I was about to jump in the pit.
I'm going to the parking lot. Cool, man. Okay, so before we get to our final question of favorite albums and stuff, I'm a little going off course again here real quick, but you know, we didn't really specifically talk a lot about like When Broken Is Easily Fixed or Discovering the Waterfront. So I didn't know if you had anything you really wanted to say on that. And then we didn't mention at all short songs. So I didn't know if you wanted to say anything about that either.
So part 2 of Short Songs starts out with a cover song, and it's called I Like Short Songs. And I like short songs.
Enjoyable? Okay.
What is that? Is that the one where they have like 15 different guest vocals on,
think so,
I believe?
yeah.
And I agree with every one of those 15 fellas. I like short songs.
I like short songs.
It's, I quote, is it Bill, I think's the name of it. Put your name on all your food.
Oh, one thing that you got to do is put your name on all your food.
No, name, fair, game.
That's
Nice
life.
to see you, Bill.
That's life right there, people.
That
In
is the real
workplace.
world.
If you don't put your name on your food, heck, people at my work will still eat your food if you have your name on it, man. So get a lockbox.
Get you some spicy stuff.
Yeah.
They won't do that again.
Something, man. Yeah, anything on Discovering the Waterfront or When Broken Is Easily Fixed?
I mean, Discovering the Waterfront, that's, again, right about the time I found them.
Mm-hmm.
So between Discovering the Waterfront and Arrivals, those were my hardcore playlist for a long time. If I was going to have 2 CDs in my backpack, it was those 2 CDs. And Broken, I'm not sure if I ever had a physical copy of it, other than somebody burned me a copy of one time.
I may have burned you one, because I had the physical copy.
Yeah, I know somebody made me a copy at one point that I had. But the funny thing, one thing they did fix on the redo album, one of the songs always had a skip in it.
Did you probably got the album from me?
And there was just this weird spot, and I'm like, what's going on?
What the heck is that?
And so in the redo album, there's not that there, and I was like, whoa. What's that?
You made me think of something. I forgot on the last time we recorded, I was going to show you on my phone a Day to Remember song that skips really badly, but to me it sounds like it's just part of the song. So remind me when we get done with this recording to show you that, because I think it's awesome. You may not like it. I think it's awesome though. Anyway.
So anyway, I do. Broken is a little more raw for me.
I must say, I remember you weren't really too big into Broken.
I do like several on there, like, Red Light Pledge, things like that. What is it? Friends in Fall River, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that little kind of cleanish guitar intro that's got there. It's a good feel. Yeah. I do like that. Going back on it, especially years later, because earlier on I was like, that's their first album. I can just kind of wipe that under the rug. These are my
right. Yeah.
But going back years later, I just still do like that one.
Okay. Yeah, you know me. I like the raw sound.
Right.
And I know it's not good for him, but that scream, that's some passion right there, man.
Oh yeah.
I truly believe that his heart bleeds no more, Eric.
His throat might.
Yeah, because it's all in his throat now. Okay, let's do it, man. Let's wrap it up. The time has come. Final decisions must be made, Eric. Give us your favorites from Silverstein.
I literally wrote, "This is hard."
Quote, "This is hard." That's what she said.
I've been listening to these guys for a long, long time, and there's a lot of nostalgia tinged in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying to put aside all my nostalgia for this little section.
It's hard, man. It's hard to do that.
And give a mostly unbiased opinion. So let's start with some lyrics that I do like, though. I can be biased with these.
Let's hear it.
So going on the guns thing, one thing I always thought was funny from Discovering the Waterfront, he says, "I've hung up my guns and I won't kill again." Very next album, in The Sand Will Turn to Glass, that song, says, "You shot the only thing you love." And he goes on, does a little bit more, and says, "I know myself. I killed him. I'll do it again."
Ooh.
I always thought that was funny. I was like, I thought you hung those up, bro.
Yeah, but it's a new album, so.
New album.
New album, new me.
There we go. So we shot it again.
I hung up those guns. I bought new guns, though.
All right now, Sheriff. So, first came the law,
Exactly. And then came grace.
Sweet little song there.
And then we learned how to build a sandcastle.
So a lot of their lyrics could be little small callbacks to older albums, kind of like we were talking about a little bit earlier. Mm-hmm. Like Vices talks about coping with disaster. And then we've got My Disaster.
My Disaster.
Another is Arrivals and Departures being separated into different songs on wind shifts. I always like both of those little tidbits, the throwbacks. And there's a lot of other ones, too, that kind of do that. Those are just two that really stood out to me.
Yeah.
From I Knew I Couldn't Trust You. I could see through you like glass, slither around below the grass. Garden of Eden burning, forbidden fruit, you won't discern it. Forget your heart.
That's a good one. That's a good sing-along.
It is. I sang to that one loudly, often. Let's see. The next one is from... Let's see. Well, let's see if you can guess it. I bet you know this one.
Let's hear it.
I'm not ready to swim. I'm not going to sink. I just want to float through the sea. Are you holding me up? Are you holding me down? Or are you slowly drowning me?
I should know that one, shouldn't I? Is it off an early album? Or is it a middle?
Third album.
Third album.
Rivals.
Oh. I don't know. Which one is it?
Love with Caution, I think.
Oh,
No, hold on. I don't know.
Didn't sound like he was too cautious with that love.
I think it is anyway. I didn't write it down. I messed up.
Okay.
Life goes on. So,
wah, wah, wah. He is 0 for 4 on this episode.
So from Live to Kill. It will be beautiful when I'm cashing in the life I stole with the perfect sound at the perfect time. All the single words I forged to line. Again, another kind of good sing-along type.
I feel like he's just going to continue on with lyrics for the rest of our lives.
He
probably could, man.
I really could. I love these albums. I pretty well stopped there because I was trying to pick a few and I was like, man, I can't pick all the lyrics, can I? Shucks. Especially the early lyrics, like I said, all the poetic stuff going on in there. It's just fantastic. I really enjoy it. So I will jump into the album.
What about one of my favorite lyrics, though? Why did I put myself on the spot? It's so ironic that a heart made by man, when broken, is easily fixed. What did he say? When a human hurt can last a lifetime, right? Isn't that how he said it?
I think that's roughly.
I should have wrote it down. That's a good one, though. That one always got me. I was like, oh, shoot. Yeah. Favorite albums? Is that what you're on now?
I think we'll move to favorite album here.
Okay.
Right after I make sure that I'm not a dummy.
Okay.
Yes, I am not a dummy today. That is Love with Caution.
Okay.
That's one of my old standbys, and that's why I did quote that one.
Gotcha.
That's why I didn't even write it down, because I was like, duh, it's Love with Caution.
You know it, man.
I was like, now that I look at it funny, it's out of context, and I can't put it in my brain. And
right.
Anyway, I'm just making excuses because I'm actually this dumb. It's okay.
When the red light is on, people, we become dumb.
That is very true, in fact. So anyway, favorite albums. I automatically want to say Arrivals and Departures because that is my favorite for a very long time.
Okay.
But again, trying to put aside my nostalgia just a little bit, I find myself putting on a Shipwreck a lot more nowadays.
Now, which one is this, your third album or first?
I'm not going in any particular order.
Okay, go ahead.
I find myself, I'd say probably top dog at the moment, Shipwreck in the Sand.
Okay.
And that's at the moment.
It's a good classic, though, man.
I don't know that that's hard, in the pavement or anything.
Yeah, well, but it's okay.
Because
when we talk
that
about
is
it, flows.
That's a good album.
Yeah.
That's one that I find myself really often right now reaching towards. But I will say top 3, no particular order.
Okay.
Because it's a pretty close fight. I mean, it's just,
number no to particular order.
So Arrivals and Departures, of course. Shipwreck in the Sand, and then This Is How the Wind Shifts.
We didn't even talk about I'm Alive and Everything. I just realized that one too. For me,
Well, that's what I was going to say is pretty much everything. That's a very hard call for those 3.
Yeah.
I struggled with that for quite a few minutes because everything from the beginning, basically all the way up to I'm Alive, pretty regular rotation.
Yeah.
For me. So
I know I've said several times, I Am Alive was one that was the album that got me back into Silverstein because I disappeared after Short Songs, which I know is just one album in between, but I was kind of like, my likes kind of changed and they weren't my favorite band anymore. And then you had talked to me about Wind Shifts, and then I heard that they had a new album, and I was at Best Buy and I was like, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to buy this thing. I'm going to give it a shot. I'm not going to listen to it on YouTube. I'm just going to buy it. And I fell in love with it, man. I thought that was a really good album. But anyway.
It is a really good album.
It is a good one.
Like I said, I had a really hard time picking just 3 even.
Yeah.
Much less 1. I struggled. I was beating myself up. I was sweating bullets. I didn't know what to do.
Stressed.
If that's all the stress I have to deal with, I'd be a better man.
Man.
But it was genuinely difficult to pick a top for sure. So songs, I could probably do a top 3 from every album. But for the sake of brevity at this point, I mean, even the new ones have 3 good ones each.
Okay.
In my opinion. I mean, there's at least 3 I could pick off there that I don't mind listening to.
Okay.
But
I'd probably have to sit down and look at it and think about it too.
right, I mean, like even the very newest one, you've got the Ultra Mary and a
I
few
do
ones.
enjoy that one, man.
A few like that that are actually still good to listen to. But anyway, let's see. Honorable mentions first thing. Here Today, Gone Tomorrow.
Here Today, Gone Tomorrow.
I always loved that song. I forgot who I guess they wrote it for somebody they were touring with.
So the Bayside drummer.
That's right.
I can't remember what his name is, but he died in a car wreck, and they wrote it in honor of him.
And I always thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's a really catchy song. It's
got a good catch to it, man.
And it's one of those I sung along with for a long time. But another one is Love with Caution. That was my absolute number one for a long time.
Okay.
And it still gets regular rotation pretty often. It's just not my absolute favorite like it was for so long. You know, I've grown up over the years a little bit.
I'm a man.
I'm a man. I'm 40. But anyway, so let's start with number 3.
Number 3.
So number 3 is kind of sort of a tie, but it's kind of sort of two halves of that coin.
It's a tie.
It's From the Wind Shifts.
Okay.
This is How the Wind Shifts. Massachusetts and California.
Okay.
Because I do feel like out of the pairings, that's one of the ones that does the best at telling two parts of a story.
Yeah.
And I really like the way that moves. And the interesting, when he calls, when they're talking about each other, it's almost like they're talking about them as a state.
Yeah.
Hey, you, Massachusetts, I need you to do this for me, or, you know, whatever the song lyrics are saying, you know, at that time.
Right.
It's really interesting that, you know, no names were given, but we've got, you know, 2 different names of places, which are also the people, and we got a Zombieland vibe going at that point, I guess.
Yeah.
Hey, Tallahassee, what you doing? But anyway, I really do like those 2 songs, and they do tell 2 halves of that story. As far as that album goes, I think those 2 do really well together.
Nice.
Anyway, let's go on to number 2.
Number 2.
I like Replace You from
off of
Rescue.
That's right. That's like,
So this one,
with that one.
this one has a normal and acoustic version.
Okay.
And I tried to narrow it down between the 2, and I said, nope, I like them both. It depends on what mood I'm in, honestly, for that one.
No, I hear you.
And I like them both. And then we'll go on to number 1.
Number 1.
Number 1 gets a little bit of a story.
Oh, boy.
The first time I got to see them in concert was right after the Ghost EP released, or the single, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
And that would have been 2016, 17, right about that. Anyway, I told the guys on the way down there, if they play this song, I'm breaking from the group, and you won't see me for the rest of the show because I'll be in the pit.
Here we go.
And arguably, probably the heaviest song they've written to date is I Am the Arsonist. Arguably. It's pretty close contention for Ultra Mary. Which they think. Shane actually did say what last time I saw them.
Yeah.
That is the heaviest song we've ever written.
Yeah. I just... I wonder about Bleeds No More, though. I know I'm probably being biased. Because, I mean, look, well, that was always one of my favorite songs growing up. Period. Across the board. Just because it was, at that time, it was heavy. You know, I agree with what you're saying, too. Arsonist is heavy, and Ultra Mary is heavy, too. But, man, I mean, they used to end the show on Bleeds No More. No matter what, they used to always end their shows with Bleeds No More.
I am so sad I didn't get to see that era of them. But that was back in the day. I had no money.
No,
no rides to shows.
Okay. Yeah, I Am the Arsonist, though. There wasn't a guest on that one, was there? No, because it was just, okay, no.
I don't think so on that one.
No. Vices was the one with Liam, right?
Yes.
That's right. Okay, yeah.
I think.
Yeah, because it's
Liam.
number 2, right, on the album? Whatever the second song is called, that's the one with Liam.
Yes.
I think it is Vices. Yeah. All
But
right, cool, man.
I Am the Arsonist. I told the guys on the way down there, I said, if they play I Am the Arsonist, I'm gone. Don't worry about me.
Get out of my way.
Don't worry. I'll be in the pit. And I heard, dun, 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 dun. I waved and I was like, bye, guys.
See ya.
And they didn't see me until Silverstein was over. I was like, where have you been? I told you I'd be in the pit.
I'm in the pit.
I was a little too excited, but
Nice.
yes,
That's
that
okay
was-
though, man. You got to get hyped for these songs, right?
Absolutely.
When you're
Especially when you hear your favorite.
Man, yeah, it's over. You go in that trance.
It's pit time!
I'm gravitating towards it. Yeah. Cool, man. Alrighty. We're like right under the 2-hour mark.
I knew that.
Shoo,
I knew that would happen.
man. Okay. Final.
That's us being brief.
That's us being brief on Silverstein. Wait till we get to the next 2 episodes. Probably gonna be about 20 to 30 minutes long.
Maybe.
Okay.
Well, there's a little bit more bread than sandwich there for some of it, but
Yeah. I just say that I haven't even started on notes for those 2 yet, so I'm kind of like, I don't know what we're going to talk about, but we'll find some stuff.
Probably
I always surprise
a band
myself.
or two. And
Yeah, I always surprise myself. So, okay, so yeah, final thoughts. Your final is the altar call, man.
is this altar call, Mary?
This is it, man.
This is heavy.
Give
Wow.
us your final plea. Your final thoughts on Silverstein, Eric.
So I have personally seen them twice, and if they come anywhere near here again, I still will go see them because they put on a good show, regardless if you like their newer stuff or not.
Yeah. Well, and they always have a good mix. Though,
They do
right?
have a good mix.
They're at
I was
that point in
actually
their
looking back at what I've heard at this last show, and I was looking through, and I was like, they did not play anything from Arrivals, but they also didn't play anything, I think, from, can't remember if it was Rescue or Shipwreck. It was one of those two. But anyway, I mean, it's not like they don't like certain albums. They won't play stuff from them.
Right. But you
they
can't
played-
play everything every
Right.
night,
I would
so-
I would sit there for that.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I'd pay good money for that.
I would pay good money for that. But generally speaking, they're still worth going and seeing in concert, I feel like. At the end of this show, the last one I saw, they did play The Altar Mary. That was kind of the
To
ending
finish?
things. Yes.
Oof. That's a
It
good
was
one.
it was pretty good.
That's a good
and
one.
Shane was on the ground, that lyric, it's somebody's gotta die tonight.
Yeah.
On the ground screaming into the mic, somebody's gotta die tonight.
Somebody has
And
to
it was
die.
so epic, and that it just felt good.
Man.
It felt like, watching old school, like way back in the day when he was still, My Heart Bleeds No More,
Right.
that kind of era. And I was like, man, the hype in the room felt good.
I was listening to a podcast this last week where Josh Goggin was giving a lot of like details on like when he was a lot younger and getting into music and going to shows all the time. And him and the guy that was hosting it is Jeremy Baum from Touche Amore. He's got a podcast of his own. So they were talking about, and we talked about it a little bit already too, vocally, unclean vocals. It's like you can kind of tell sometimes where it's like somebody's just screaming because that's what I'm into. I'm into screamo, so I'm just gonna scream, and I have to scream right here. And Josh Goggin was talking about, he's okay with that, but at the same time, and I share some opinion. I share the same opinion on this too. I love it when I find a vocalist that has passion behind his unclean vocals.
Absolutely.
And you can feel their heart just ripping in two. And Shane does that, man. He has that.
And even live,
Yeah.
every time I've seen them.
And so when you're talking about that as their last song, and he's just giving everything that he had left in the tank for that one line, it's like, oh, man, that's good. That'll bring a tear to your eye.
It was fantastic. It really
Maybe
was.
a couple of tears.
Like I said, I will go see them again if they come anywhere near here. Just
Noise.
well worth my time. Well worth your time. If you're out there listening and you want to check out Silverstein, like I said, even if you like their older stuff, chances are they still might play it. Especially, one thing he did say last time I seen him in concert was that he will almost always play or try to play something from, golly, my brain just turned to mush.
Early stuff, right?
Some of the early stuff,
Yeah.
especially like prior to Arrivals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like discovering and when,
I think that was the one he mentioned by name, was Discovering the Waterfront, because that was their breakout album. That's when he said, if it wasn't for that album,
it's true.
we wouldn't be standing in this stage in front of you all today.
Yeah, that's true.
If it didn't get the exposure, if you all, some of you older fans out there, didn't get behind it like you did, we wouldn't be here today.
This is true, man.
So, which made me happy. I was old. I was standing there with my Converse, with my arch supports.
That's me.
See the gray hair? That's me,
Get
guys.
out of the way, whippersnapper. I want to end it on this, Eric. Favorite album cover?
Oh, actually,
You didn't give us one, man.
I did not.
No.
So their albums, actually quite a few of them stick in like this sepia, however you say that, kind of the brownish tones across the board, coming from Discovering the Waterfront all the way up through, I guess, Wind Shifts. Pretty much all of those kind of stick in that color palette.
I would put I Am Alive in that too also.
Yeah,
So,
actually.
Because once you hit Dead Reflection, you kind of get like a weird modern look to it.
Right, it definitely changes. There's
Especially
new
A
color.
Beautiful Place to Drown. What is going on there?
Nothing's going on there. We forget about that one.
And then we kind of get kind of cool. I like the album artwork on Misery Made Me. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I will
Kinda
agree. That
mysterious.
is pretty cool.
Who is she? She's all blurry. Who is she? You know? Yeah.
But man, Rescue is always nice and clean. I like Rescue. I don't think it's my top one though. Honestly, I can remember. I think it was the EP that came out for Wind Shifts. There was kind of this grid pattern, and it was showing the wind patterns or something.
Oh, okay.
It was like a black background with like this white grid on it,
I guess I've never seen that one, huh?
and that was really, really cool too. Some of their EP artwork actually is pretty cool. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've seen a whole lot of that.
Well, I remember like Transitions. It was like a mountain. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was before Rescue. Even like some of their early ones are cool too, like Shadows Beam and stuff. That's kind of cool. I mean, it's simple, you know. It's nothing
Right.
crazy.
That one was pretty cool, actually. I remember that.
My four favorite are obviously When Broken is Easily Fixed, Discovering
I
the
do
Waterfront,
love Broken is Easily Fixed.
the Robot
Iron Man
Bar,
holding his
yeah.
heart there. That is so cool.
And then I love Wind Shifts and I Am Alive. There's just something about those, you know, it's kind of like, it's kind of almost like oil painting, like, you know.
Right, and kind of like I said, that kind of browny
That
tones
tone
that are
to the
going
filter,
on.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't,
So-
like I said, most of those throughout the middle of their discography do have that kind of tone to them.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe it kind of brings a somber tone to their whole album
Yeah.
to begin with.
Yeah, that's true, man. I mean, it's got to, you know, as a whole, we've talked about it before, it's a whole, I mean, it's got to be a good presentation overall. I want to look at the album artwork and the pictures in the lyric books and
Yes.
be able to connect it with the songs. And, you know, and there's times too where it's like, I just look at like the colors and everything from the album cover, and you can kind of like feel it in the songs too and like connect those things. So, alrighty.
I think if I have to nail my feet to the floor, though,
Uh-oh.
and actually pick one, because I haven't even picked one yet. I just said
Get out the
they're all-
Brad Nailer.
I said they're all cool guys, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Arrivals and Departures is probably my favorite. The way the train's
Shocking.
derailing and there's stuff growing out of it and everything, that urban
Just-
decay
just
kind of
left it out
look,
there, yeah.
it's just really pretty cool. I do like that one.
Okay.
So it just draws me in. Even way back then when I seen that, I was like, dude, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of bands weren't doing exactly that. Like I said, a lot of them were just really dark at the time, kind of
Yeah.
in the emo scene. Oh, cool, another black album with a squiggle on it. What, is that their name? Oh, okay, cool. But they did something a little different, and I enjoy it.
Oh, look, a guy with no shirt on and pajamas. What's he doing?
Now you don't want to know.
Alrighty. That was Discovering the Waterfront, by the way. Okay, anyway. Anything else?
I think that's about it for me.
Go check them out, man.
Absolutely.
And this is definitely one of those, they've been around for long enough to go start from the beginning, go listen to the progression.
If you
go
did-
listen to all of it, you know.
Oh, absolutely. And if you've never heard of Silverstein, if you live under a huge rock, I would say a good entrance place is probably, depending on what you like to begin with, of course. I mean, if you're into like the cores,
Right.
like what we've talked about beforehand here, you'll probably end up liking a little bit of the heavier stuff. So Wind Shifts, that era. If you're kind of more into the post-hardcore type stuff, I'd say go ahead and start back a little bit earlier, you know, getting into your Arrivals, getting into your Discovering the Waterfront,
Yeah.
you know, back in there. But overall, You won't go wrong in the beginning of the discography,
No.
in my opinion.
Yeah. I would probably say discovering stuff from
And,
there.
you know, if y'all are grown-ups and want to do your own thing, go check out the last 3. Do your thing. See how you like
Be
it.
a weirdo. Start from the end and come back to the beginning. Star Wars freaks. No. Alrighty. Cool. Thank you, Eric. That was fun. 2 hours worth of fun.
Absolutely.
Make sure to follow us on Twitter at IsSurviveByPro for news and the latest episode postings, not just on this show, but there are other shows as well. We have the History of the Chorus podcast, where me and Josh sit down and talk about bands from the core genre. Where this one that me and Eric are doing, it's more kind of chilled out, as Josh kind of described it. More just kind of discussion topics. And the one with me and Josh, the History of the Chorus podcast, is more going album by album, talking about members, member changes, just kind of the history overall of the band and where they're at that moment. You also have the Red Right Hand podcast, which has covered all 6 seasons and a few episodes in between about some historical facts of the Peaky Blinders. And we also have the Throne of the Dragon podcast, which has covered season 1, soon to be season 2, very soon. We're getting closer day by day, of HBO's House of the Dragon. Currently, we are currently in R. There. I want to move on. Also, while you're on Twitter, make sure to follow my co-host at Joshua Lengary. You ever seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt. Leonardo DiCaprio is like a movie star, and he's on the set for like a Western, and he's having trouble with his lines, like remembering them or whatever. And there's this scene where it's like a bunch of like different little cuts of like him in his trailer, like freaking out at himself for like forgetting his lines or whatever. And there's a part where he goes, "Blah, blah, 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 well, you stupid baboon, man." And so I always think of that when I start messing up, man. I'm a baboon, man. Blah, 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 blah. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review and write us a comment on whatever podcast service you're using. If you want to listen to us and see our smiling faces, head on over to our YouTube page. Just search Is Survived by Productions, and that'll have every episode from all of our shows. Subscribe to the channel. Thumbs up the video. Alrighty, we will see you in the next episode. We're going to talk about the quote-unquote partycore band known as I Wrestled a Bear Once. We'll see you.